here is the solution I mentioned to blown up engine, or the cracked engine block in gray. It's a straight 6, 226. This chassis is a 48 to 50 Ford F6. There's serial number somewhere in here. I know I won't pick up on camera, but got the whole chassis and the 6-cylinder specific radiator and the seat for old gray to replace. Oh, I was really just looking at the engine, but the engine, then the rest of it just kind of came with it. It's the same 4-speed Warner T8 or 9. I didn't prepare here. I don't know which it is. It is a T8. Same exact things as is in both trucks, Speedy and Gray. But clutch is supposedly blown up in it. It is a 2-speed like Speedy is. It's got this heel hydraulic hoist box on it. The whole box is wood. Used to have sides on it for hauling chips. See that same Eaton 1350 axle on there as Speedy has. I'll need to check the ratios on that, see what they are. So if it's nice enough ratio, it might go in Speedy's axle. Or the gears might go in Speedy's. It's got the whole wet kit for the box, all still intact. And it has a Hydro Boost, still hooked up as it should be. So that'll at least show me how to hook them up. Have the air filter for it, a couple other things in the cab of the truck. And it does spin, it's stiff, but it only makes a few degrees of revolution. I'm not too worried about that though. So it has the heat shield in place there. And now, this is the earlier style 2G 226 straight 6. It's got the distributor up here instead of over there. Makes 5 less horsepower, I want to say. So it should, this truck should be new enough that it would have the later 7-inch or MT, I want to say, or 8M straight 6s. But see, the block on the engine is green, PTO is red along with the flywheel housing, transmission is blue, so this whole assembly is kind of a hodgepodge. So here the chassis is on the ground, getting ready to start working on pulling the engine. And I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous clip. If not, this one would be in there, but this truck, let's see if I can find the serial number. Oh, they don't even say on there. This actually came out of an F6, not an F5. Again, somewhere in the 48 to 50 range. I didn't prod the thing hard enough to see exactly what it was. But this isn't the original engine it came with. No, it was a 6-cylinder because the battery tray is on the left-hand side instead of the right-hand side for the 8 cylinders. 90-horse engine instead of the 100-horse that truck would have originally come with. But I think it'll be a pretty good match. 6s have better torque for towing. And a fun fact about these 226 6s is the exact same 6 compared with alongside the exact same 8 of the same year, the exact same engine, exact same chassis configuration. The 6s were faster to 75 mile an hour than the 8s were. 75 to 80, then the 8s had passed the 6s, but they were pretty evenly matched. And the 6s also don't have the issues with casting stand being stuck in the blocks and overheating. So, given all the stuff that came with this, the whole running gear, chassis, 2-ton axles and springs to replace the incredibly flogged out 10.5 equipment on the truck, definitely a win, even if it isn't the exact right engine. Got the drain plug off the oil pan to let it drain. It's one of Ford's usual giant plugs from these earlier series engines. And there's no major sludge in it. The oil pan is a little bit crushed up against the oil pump suction, but that can all be fixed while the pan is off. So while that's draining, I'm going to start work on trying to get some of this equipment at the back of the transmission free, so that the whole engine transmission is ready to pick out. Now I'm really hoping that a lot of the parts in this thing are good. I doubt it'll have new gears for Speedy, but if the front cover and clutch fork are in good shape, I'd probably take those, because Speedies, even though I fixed them, they're still not. If I had a better option, I'd definitely take it. Alright, I've gotten the drive shaft finagled down out of the way. Pulled the cotter pin out of the castle nut that keeps everything tensioned on the back of the output shaft of the transmission. I didn't loosen the nut. That's just how tight it was. So my guess is somebody's been in here before. Yep, that one is still in one piece. Feels like good threads underneath it. So there's a win. These ones are really buried in grime, but these are the lower bracket for this side of the parking brake. I might have to go with one that isn't coated in grease to make sure I'm not missing a bolt on here. This one is spring-loaded, or it should be at least. I don't know if the spring is intact or not anymore. Yep, there went the spring. Glove, thank you. Not a particularly great spring, but at least gives you an idea of what size it is. Now, drum itself. Not perfect by any means, but honestly, better than Gray's. Lots of meat still left on the friction. Hasn't been used as the main service brake of the truck for years. So I'm happy with the condition of that. And on the drum, there's a little bit of a lip in this sealing surface back here, but not terrible. That was a slog. But it does seem as if it's got the original style thermostat in it. Wasn't expecting to see that locking ring there, so I'll have to figure out how to pull that out. But otherwise, surprisingly, doesn't look too terrible in the cooling system. There's a kind of greenish goo all through it. So onwards to the alternator that somebody's hacked onto here. I think this, yeah, this is the original pulley to it. I'll need to figure out how to get that off. Not on there very well. Yeah, oh gosh. Feels horrible too. That's pretty much ready to go straight in the scrap bucket where it belongs. There's the engine and transmission out. The funny part about this is it actually weighs probably about the same amount here as you see it, engine and transmission, as just a Flathead 8 does by itself. Certainly feels lighter lifting it with the loader. Oh my. There's the business end of the clutch. Then throw out and a piece of friction. Another piece of friction. Another piece of friction. Oh, that's not mouse nest. That's all clutch friction material. Bruh, it doesn't feel too great. I thought that was a giant mouse nest in there, but nope. It's clutch. Alright, got the engine into the shop. Gonna start breaking into it, see if it's any better inside than the 6-cylinder or the 8-cylinder was. Believe it or not, there's 3 stamped tin valve covers on there, buried somewhere under that sludge. Just see the 3 mounting bolts in the breather pipe. And as if this poor truck couldn't get any worse, this is what's left of the friction disc on the clutch. There's no friction material left on it at all. Sludgy. Very, very sludgy. But not terrible. And sludgy. But that seems to be mostly contained to this tray, although there was a piece of tin hanging onto it. That may have been its method of retention at some point. And lastly, lots of sludge. I have a sledgehammer propped under the very front of the oil pan, just to take a little bit of weight off of the engine stand. Not super worried about it, but Ford did definitely like their side loader engine stands. Well, in theory, at least at this point, the head should just kind of lift away. It won't. There we go. There's a little bit of ridge on these. Number 3 here has been chewing on something. Initial survey, I'm not seeing any cracks. Not feeling any major scoring. But of course, you never do when you first open up an engine. At least the water pumps in the 226 can't have the random hidden bolt sticking in through the water inlet. Impeller looks really good. Same kind of greenish tint that all the rest of the metal in the cooling system has had so far. I'm guessing that it's either some kind of stop leak or some kind of radiator treatment. Got all the bolts out of the pan. Skipped any kind of filming on them because the camera's running a little bit low on battery. I'm about ready to call it a night here, but pulled all the bolts out. There weren't all of them in there. Probably every other one was in consistently. Not all of them were very tight, but it was glued on by a pretty good layer of Permatex. And other than the bolt that I dropped in there, the pan looks shockingly, remarkably clean. There's sludge, but pump screen pretty well clogged. None of the rods are loose. Pop one of these at random off and have a look at it. I'm gonna go for 6, because 6 is always, pretty much always in the worst shape. And, or well, almost always in the worst shape, because that's where the coolant circulates the least. Good and snug on there. Didn't seem like somebody got halfway through tearing it down and gave up. You know, like both of the Flathead 8 engines I've got. Not spun, but working on trying. And a little bit warm pretty often. Pulled off number 4 rod bearing, or main bearing. Much the same as the rod. A little bit of pitting, looks like it ran hot. The journal itself, though, looks pretty darn good. There's a little bit of a lip that I can catch in the oiling, where the oiling slot was on the bearing. Crank feels like it'll just need... There is still cotter pins in the main bearing caps. Cleveite bearings. .002s. So these are factory bearings. Which, I know somebody's clearly had this pan off before, but realistically, I think this is going to be a good engine. Honing, ring job, new bearings. I think it's probably going to be pretty good. I'm going to wrap the video up here. I'll get this stripped fully down and probably off camera, go over it looking for cracks, pull this quarter inch of grease and goo off of it. But I think this will be a good block for the old gray truck. Do something a little different than the Flathead 8s that you see all the time. Thanks for watching.